Hi, I'm Marcus and welcome back to another episode of jPlay. I announced it already on my Facebook page. I updated my cover picture and you might see that here as well. Yes, I will start a playthrough series of The Darkest Night by Victory Point Games. I have to admit, I have not played that game too often. It just arrived I think a week ago, and I had to do some other stuff, and so I could only manage to have one, call it training session, to get a rough understanding about the rules. So this playthrough will also be more or less something like a learning session for myself. I'm pretty sure you will make me aware of any mistakes, and I really hope that you do that. So because the rules themselves are not that complicated, but there are some very special conditions under which you lose secrecy, in which you don't getting any grace, when you have to attack, when you have to draw an event card, when don't, and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure some minor mistakes will happen, so I might forget to battle the necromancer from time to time or whatsoever. I hope you will apologize this and really make me aware if you spot an error, so then I can correct it or really can learn from that. So I think, as usual, let's have a look inside the box. Let's see what comes with it. Let's do the game setup, let's do the character selection, and then we can get started. Hope you will enjoy it.
A great shadow has fallen over the kingdom as the undead continue to multiply under the control of a dread necromancer. Don't worry, I won't torture you any further with my little narrative voice here, but I simply couldn't resist. Welcome to the first video of my playthrough of The Darkest Night. You could imagine this already. This is the main game board of The Darkest Night, and you already see a little preparation I already did. For once I placed our dread necromancer here at the ruins, and I already prepared the holy relics at the different locations. So there's one at the forest, the mountains, at the swamp, and in the ruins. I've also already shuffled the event deck, the map deck, and the artifact deck. I think we don't see the artifact deck too often, but definitely the event deck and the map deck are more or less the most vital components in this game. And then there are also the power decks for each of the characters. So there's the Knight, the Prince, the Acolyte, the Rogue, the Scholar, the Wizard, the Priest, the Seer, and there is also a ninth one, and this would be the Druid. I have to admit, I found the Druid so damn powerful, or at least maybe I was lucky, I decided to definitely go for the Druid in my playthrough session here as well. I find it pretty useful to have someone with fighting abilities, or with some fighting abilities, so I think I will also go for the Knight in this playthrough. Two of my characters I've chosen, and that's because I already played with those and I found them pretty useful. But I think for the last two I will go for a randomized approach here, because I like randomness a lot. So let's see what our third character would be. That's the Wizard. Oh, I know this guy as well. He's also pretty cool. And let's see what we have for the fourth character, and that would be the Rogue. Before we have a look at the character cards, let's place our characters here at the monastery. This is the Druid, this would be the Wizard, the Knight, and the Rogue. The characters themselves do not differ that much from each other. Of course, there are some different starting values, like the grace or the secrecy here. So for example, the Knight starts with 5 grace and 6 secrecy, whereas the Wizard starts with 3 grace and 5 secrecy. The thing where they really do differ from each other are the so-called power cards. Each of these characters has 10 unique power cards that is more or less special to his class. The Druid might have powers that are really close to the nature, like this wolf form here, or the camouflage. Whereas a character like the Rogue, for example, could have something like an ambush, a shadow cloak, or a skull. So really some sneaky powers. I will explain the single powers, I think, when I come to play them. First thing to do is for each of the characters they have to select their 3 starting abilities or power cards. Each character has 4 starting power cards to choose from, and these are depicted with this little icon here in the top right of this corner. So for example, the druid could go for the visions, for the sprite form, for the animal companion, or the camouflage. We are now able to choose 3 of those 4, whereas the 4th card will be shuffled back into the remaining power card stack. And I think in this case we will go for the camouflage, the animal companion, and the visions power card. And then we will give the remaining power cards a good shuffle. The knight will start with the Oath of Purging, the Hard Right, and the Charge power card. The rogue will start with Eavesdrop, Vanish, and Ambush. And the wizard chooses the Teleport, the Lightning Strike, and the Rune of Nullification. Each of the character gains a turn tracker. It's basically a sun, whereas on the other side there is the moon. This is just to show which character already has performed his turn in this round. And then we will adjust the starting grace, and the starting secrecy for all of the characters. Let's place the darkness tracker accordingly, and then we are more or less prepared to start our playthrough. But wait, what do we have to achieve in order to win this game? Not sure if I already mentioned this, but Darkest Night is a fully cooperative game. So these 4 characters are trying to defeat the evil necromancer who is starting down in the ruins. There are 2 ways to actually win this game. For once, the characters could try to find 3 of the holy relics and bring them to the monastery. If that's the case, so if the last holy relic will be moved to the monastery, the game is already over and the players have won the battle against the evil necromancer. The second way to defeat the necromancer could be in a fight. So for example, the knight could go to the location of the necromancer and could fight the necromancer. You can really only win the necromancer or really defeat the necromancer if this knight would possess a holy relic with him. In this case, when defeating the necromancer, he is killed and the land is free again. Of course, you have to be aware that no of other blights are present in the same location as the necromancer, because before he dies, he will more or less first sacrifice one of his blights here. The only way to really lose this game is when the 5th blight will enter the monastery. So in this case we have already 4 blights, and whatever through a map card or something different, a 5th blight would be coming to the monastery. In this case that would be the skeleton. Then also the game immediately ends and the players have lost the game. How do you actually find these holy relics? A character could carry 3 of these keys. You can find these keys by searching in these locations. Then he could go for some kind of a reclaiming action for this holy relic. He would then give the 3 keys away, and then he would be able to flip this around and would take it into his personal inventory. Note, the character can only carry 1 holy relic at a time. But all these items can be exchanged between players more or less anytime if they share the same location. For example, this treasure chest, the bottled magic, or the waystone here. I think I will explain all the detailed rules as I play. First of all, let's finish our preparation step. There is one last thing to do, and this would be to bring new blights or starting blights into the realm of the Darkest Night. And you do that by drawing a map card, and then you would give to each of these locations the appropriate blight that's depicted on it. You do that without the monastery, of course. The monastery is still the only safe haven in the realm here. So in the monastery, the necromancer can never enter, not a single point in the time in the game, and you will not have any encounters there. Let's see, we have some skeletons starting off in the forest. There's a front side and the back side. I will flip these to the back side so I can directly see what they will do. This is really a creature, so this is something I have to fight when I end my round there. The village, we have some spice, and the spice only makes you lose secrecy. In the mountains we have to face a lich, and this is quite a powerful enemy. The castle blight is an evil presence. This is not really a creature, but this will give you a malus of 1 dice when trying to elude, but you always have to keep at least 1 die. In the swamp we have some confusion. This makes sense thematically, and as long as this confusion is there, you are not allowed to use a tactic card when fighting at the swamp. And finally, in the ruins we have to face a shroud, and the shroud is also not really an enemy or a creature, but this shroud protects other blights. We have now placed all the starting blights for turn number 1, so basically we can get started with a hero turn. On the back side of these character cards we have a nice little overview about the hero turn. So each hero turn now is consisting of the same phases each turn. There's the start phase, where you would lose some secrecy, where you can resolve some start of turn instruction and stuff like that. Then there would be an event step, but you can skip this event step as long as you're in the monastery. Then there is the actual action step, where you can perform 1 action of your choice. I will come to that. And then there is an end step, where you have to face any blights in your location. The players can freely decide upon who is going first, who is going second, and so on, and they can change that from round to round. So in round 1 rogue could start, whereas in round 2 the wizard could start, and then the druid, and whatsoever. You're really free to decide that between the players. During the first rounds that might really not that important, so I think in this first round personally I will start with a knight. As the knight does not start at a location where the necromancer is present, and she's not carrying a holy relic, she's not going to lose any secrecy. As well as she's at the monastery, she's not supposed to draw an event card. We can directly jump into the action step, and I think I will go for this hard right power here, and this is an action, so I can use it, and it says move twice but gain no secrecy. Normally when moving with a normal pace you would gain 1 secrecy up to 5, but in this case you can move twice but you don't gain an extra secrecy. And I think I will really directly jump into the action. So let's take the knight, we move 1 space, we move another space directly to the ruins where the necromancer is present. Right now that's not really a problem, she's still at 6 secrecy even, so the necromancer will not be able to catch her, but still she could go to, more or less destroy this blight in her next round. To show that she already has used her action in this round, we will flip the turn tracker token to the moon side, so everyone is aware, hey, we have moved her already. Then we would come to the end phase of her turn, and normally you would have to encounter the blights that are present. In this case there is not really an enemy present, so nothing really bad happens. This shroud here only would protect other blights. Next we would be using the druid. The same is valid for the druid as it was for the knight. There is no necromancer, he's starting in the monastery, so he doesn't have to draw any event card, so we can also jump in directly to the action phase. And for the action we will move the druid 1 space further down. Normally he would gain 1 secrecy for that movement action, but you only get that for up to 5 secrecy, so in this case he doesn't earn any additional secrecy. Then we come to the end of turn phase for the druid as well, and there is applied presence, and in this case this is the skeletons, so he has to fight the skeletons here. There are 2 values for which are important for a fight or attack versus these creatures. Once there is this strength value here, this little shield token, that's a 4, and this value is always the case when you have to engage it at your end of turn event. So what's the case here? If you are about to attack, this plight in a later turn, for example, as the next action he could go for an attack action, then you have to use the might value here, which is a little bit higher than the strength value. In a fight you have different possibilities. For once you could use your elude, so you could evade this creature, but for the skeletons that's not very useful because the awareness is the same, they're both at 4. Normally you would roll 1 die at this point in time, but during a fight you can choose to use a tactic power card. In this case you could go for camouflage if you were about to elude this character or these skeletons, or he could fight these skeletons. I think in this case we will directly no, we will elude it because this card would be exhausted if we would fail. So let's roll 2 dice. So it says elude with 2 dice, and now we have to roll at least 4 or higher, and yeah, that's not a problem. We eluded these skeletons without a problem. Of course I have forgot to flip over the turn tracker, but I will do that now. Next we come to the rogue. Again, no event card, no loss of secrecy, so we can directly jump into the next phase. And I think we will move here to the village where the spies are waiting for us, and the spies just says lose 1 secrecy each turn. For once we will flip the turn tracker to the moon side, and then we lose our secrecy. This rogue really starts high with the secrecy, but he's still at 6, so that's not really a problem. Maybe during the next turn he's going to fight the spies. Last but not least, we have to deal with the turn of the wizard. And I think the wizard will use his teleport ability, though that's also an action, but in this case the card has to be exhausted. So we flip that to this side to show, okay, hey, we've used that action, and you can more or less refresh these powers when you are about to pray in the monastery, or if you go for a hide action later on. But first of all, let's resolve the teleport here, and I think we will directly jump into the castle here. Now we come to the end of, more or less end phase of this turn, and it also says that you're losing 1 die of eluding here. There's no other blight in play, so nothing else bad happens. Of course, again, I forgot to flip the turn tracker. As you can see, all the turn trackers are on the moon side, so the players have now taken their turns. It's now about time for the necromancer to take his turn. First of all, we will advance the terror track here to the first space, not really bad. Next we will roll for the discovery of the necromancer. We will just roll 1 die, and this is only a 1, so he's not able to detect any of the characters because their secrecy is way higher than this one. In this case, he will simply move into the direction that are depicted here on this little icon. So in this case, it will take, or he will take this route and will directly land at the forest where the druid is waiting for him. Next thing to do, the necromancer will create a new plight, and we draw a new map card for that. And it says here in the forest we will create a dark fog blight, and this dark fog blight makes the search way more difficult than under normal circumstances. The normal search difficulty here at the forest would be a 4. As long as the dark fog is present, we have to roll at least a 6 or a 6. But this was the very first round of my playthrough of Darkest Night. I think I will stop it here, so I think it's already long enough. In the next episode I will really go for whatever 2 or 3 rounds. We'll see how long that takes, and then we'll try to get you more into the actual gameplay. I really wanted to use this video to make you aware of the very core rules about this game. Of course, still I haven't showed you the event card or any attack rolls or any sophisticated power cards, but I think this is something I can also show you in one of my next videos. I hope you enjoyed it so far, and I really hope to see you in my next episode of my playthrough of Darkest Night. And until then, bye bye!